Are you aware that out of the many legions of people year after year that try to lose weight, only like 30-something% of them manage to keep it off sustainably? Today, I want to talk about some of these secrets, more like principles, means and methods of successful dieters so that you can actually lose weight sustainably and keep it off and not do the yo-yo back and forth thing for the rest of your life. Alright, so I'm going to start with my favorite thing that you've probably heard me talk about many times if you follow this channel. Most successful dieters minimize or just don't snack at all. They have clearly defined meals. Now, what do we mean by a meal versus a snack? There's a lot of different ways you can define meals, but we have to think about the desired outcome here, okay? We are talking about sustained weight loss, and so in that context, I define a meal as something containing a complete protein source, micronutrients, plus other. So the plus other can be a little bit of fat, it can be starches, it can be even sugar, but at a minimum, we have a decent amount, like call it 20 plus grams of complete protein source. That can also be vegetable source, so vegetarians and vegans, you know, you can have some beans in there, some soy, whatever the case may be. And then something with micronutrients that could include the meat itself, such as beef or pork, but you know, it could be like your vegetables, your fruits, something like that. And then whatever else makes up the remainder of the calories, be it fat, carbs, whatever the case may be. That is a meal. The reason why I define that as a meal is because that's going to pull a lot of levers simultaneously. You can add or subtract carbs for energy demands. It will give you an adequate amount of calories times 3, 4, 5 of those that you have over the course of the day. And then the protein will allow you to maintain lean tissue and not diet yourself to a skinny fat condition where you have just lost a bunch of weight, but the lion's share of it is actually lean mass that you want to keep. And I also define a meal as that because anything that isn't that, I consider a snack. Mind you, these are my definitions as a coach, not the dictionary definitions, but I say anything else besides that is a snack because most of the time when we reach for snacks, to include even like a single piece of fruit, it's a single macro item, usually either fat or carb and fat. I mean, there are, you know, things like beef jerky and whatever, but most people don't snack on that. Most people snack on like chips and pretzels and cookies and, you know, muffins and things like that, right? Things that in a certain context are fine. I'm not by any means saying these foods are quote unquote bad for you. It's just that in a vacuum by themselves, particularly just carbs or even worse, carbs and fat, you have an insulin response, which the insulin response contextually is very good, like for instance, post-exercise, but we don't just want random blood glucose spikes and insulin responses during the day because those contribute to the, what I like to call, boy that cried wolf phenomena of growing insulin resistance. Furthermore, fat, when we are not in a condition to utilize it, either via oxidative phosphorylation during prolonged activity or because we are very metabolically flexible, which most regular people are not, fat goes into fat very easily. It doesn't require any transporters. Its natural state is to be stored. So that's another thing that we don't want to be eating just randomly out of context. And then, worst of all, is the psychological impact to our stress reward dopamine system, where we're bored, so we eat. We had a bad day, so we eat. We're upset about something, so we eat. We're angry, so we eat, right? Food becomes a recreational drug rather than a food source that we can also enjoy. Not snacking is probably one of the biggest levers that you can pull. And then the other thing too is, besides all that, not snacking is just less calories that you're consuming throughout the day out of context. Most people that I've trained, and myself included, one easy way to restrict your calories without even feeling like you're restricting calories is, number one, don't drink anything other than, tea, black coffee, pre-workout, and protein shake besides water. So milk, juice, creamer, whatever, it's all out. Just water and any other non-nutritive beverage. And of course your protein shake, but that's a meal. And then the other thing is not snacking. You combine those two, and that cuts several hundred, if not over 1,000 calories out of many people's diets right off the bat, without even touching their meals. You'll see tremendous weight loss just doing that without making any other adjustments. So it's very tenable day to day, even if you don't like dieting and exercise. That segues into the next thing, which is, fasting is cool and all, and it's a great tool mentally to kind of train you that you aren't going to die by not eating. But many of the benefits you get from fasting, you can just get from spacing your meals out throughout the day. So during that time that you would snack, just don't eat. Whether it's like 1 hour, 3 hours, 5 hours, between breakfast and lunch, lunch and dinner, or meal 1, between meal 1 and 2, between meal 4 and 5, however you do your meals, just space it out. Because hunger, folks, comes in waves. So at first, when you're used to snacking all the time, you'll go like 30 minutes, 45 minutes, an hour not eating, and your ghrelin will spike, and you'll feel real hungry, and then all of a sudden, it just kind of goes away, right? It waves. There's an ebb and a flow to hunger, and after a while, those peaks and valleys start getting further and further apart. And as you just get inured to not snacking, and then eventually used to it, your intellectual understanding that you aren't going to starve changes to more of an emotional connection. Like, you understand now that, like, oh, I actually don't need to be eating all the time. That's a massive obstacle to overcome for many people in order to make their diet sustainable. And once you cross that hill, you start understanding the difference between like actual physiological hunger and appetite. The difference between you walk by a restaurant and you smell like fresh pizza and you're like, oh man, that smells awesome, versus you just crushed a workout and you need food. And spoilers, folks, especially at first, the process of losing weight is gonna make you feel hungry. There's no way around it. I don't know what to tell you. And that's why the last thing that I want to bring up is actually kind of a bunch of things jammed into one. That, folks, is satiety. Satiety is different than being full, okay? It's not a measure of food volume in your GI tract. It's a measure of you've had enough to eat and you're done, regardless of how much physical food that may be. There's a lot of different ways to achieve satiety, and you need to kind of figure out the best combination that works for you. But among some of the biggest satiety levers, first and foremost, is exercise. You ever notice how in the middle of training, even if you haven't eaten for a while, you just kind of aren't really food focused at all? It doesn't even occur to you. Staying adequately hydrated is another one. And then, of course, fibrous, high satiety foods like fruits and vegetables that are low in calories but high in micronutrients per unit volume of food. And, of course, protein. And that's pretty much it, folks. All successful diets impose some kind of restriction, and they are psychologically amenable to your day-to-day life. Be mindful of micronutrients, not just macros and calories, and maintain some form of regular physical activity. Remember, folks, consistency is a superpower, so stay in the fight. Thanks for watching.